Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the MACE Podcast. I'm your host, Marco Macente, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. Today's episode is very special as it's entirely focused on the pharma industry, on subcontracting, the work that I do, with a special guest, Chiara Invernizzi from Italy. Chiara holds a master's degree in Medical and Pharmaceutical Biotechnology. She has 16 years of experience in the CRO branch in various roles, mainly related to site contracts, including a contract specialist, lead, manager, as well as a director role. Prior to joining the CRO space, Chiara worked for 3 years in preclinical research and contracts and investor relations in a small Italian biotech company. Chiara's passion for excellence in client management and effectiveness in completing a negotiation rapidly, as well as a natural focus on metrics and analytics, have always been traits that distinguished her work and approach to set contracts. In her spare time, Chiara likes to relax with her family, work out, and read leadership books. I'm so excited to speak to Chiara, and please enjoy our conversation.
Hi, Chiara. Hello. Welcome to the MACE podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. How are you?
I'm good. Hope you're well as well.
Yes, everything is fine. And actually, I was looking forward to this interaction, Chiara. So I'm sure that this episode that we are going to record is going to be amazing. So let's start because I have already shared with the audience a little bit of your background and your experience. And I also mentioned that we both are working in the pharma industry inside contracting, when, of course, we deal with the negotiations and customer relationships across different and multiple levels. So I have a question for you because many people think that negotiations belong only to contracts, but actually I think that each person on a daily basis negotiates something in her or his ordinary life. Can you please share with us your perspective on what does negotiation mean and why is it interesting and actually speaking about it nowadays?
Interesting question. Thank you for it. Yeah, you're right. Everybody negotiating their daily life, and and there is this, from my perspective, this misperception about negotiation. It's known, like they think, and people think it's just for lawyers for big deals, implying very much like a lot of discussion, big files, and fighting, and corporate lawsuit, and this type of things.
Yeah.
In reality, we do negotiate in our daily life every single day. Think about the negotiation with your kids or with your partner, with our partners, families, but as well friends. And when we buy things, at times we negotiate, and in certain culture as well, it's outrageous not to negotiate on price.
Yeah.
So we do really negotiate daily, even if we don't realize.
Yeah.
And for me, negotiation indeed is having a discussion with parties, 1, 2, 3, to maybe multiple parties, and reach an agreement that ideally, and reach an agreement ideally as well. I mean, at times you don't even agree or reach an agreement, but technically you would like to reach an agreement that satisfies your needs in line with what your goals are, and that you have an outcome that you really wanted out of that conversation. Of course, we can have more or less complex negotiations, and based on the complexity, you may have or may need more or less advanced negotiation skills. And there is one point that is really important for me, is being aware that everybody has a different style, different interest, and can conduct negotiation differently. And being aware of that will help you navigate and get the best outcome out of the negotiation. I think one of the key skills that for a negotiator, whatever is the topic of the negotiation, is the active listening.
Yeah.
Really understanding the other party or the other parties, and then based on that, tailor your approach. There is an example that it's very basic, but I like to quote from time to time, especially, even when we work, and I call it the orange examples. There are two kids who see an orange on a table, and they both want that orange, and they start fighting. It's mine, I saw it first, and then they seek for help from mom, dad, parent, and that mom asks the key question: why do you both want the same orange? And the reason is, the first kid says, I want the peel of it, and because of the parfum, and the other one is saying, oh, I need the juice. So immediately the two kids realize that they want the orange for two different reasons, and they can be both satisfied with one orange. And this is the crux of the negotiation, getting the best out of a discussion, out of some contentious situation. Of course, it's not always easy, as in the orange example, and the more you get into complex negotiation, the more you need to have a strategy and the preparation up front. But the key point is really to keep an attitude of collaboration, smile, and really try to understand the other parties and the interest, and have clear in mind what will be the desired outcome, and what are the points that you accept to negotiate and compromise on.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot for sharing all these insights, Chiara. I do agree with you on everything that you said, and of course, we can say that the negotiation is a process, right? That
Yes.
starts, and of course, that needs to end. But of course, it is a process, and we have different phases. We have different approaches, and it's about communication, as you said. So it's about analyzing the other party, analyzing what we can do, what we can bring, what we can bring to the negotiation, how we can collaborate in order to find this common ground that, of course, is the objective of the negotiation in order to reach an agreement between the parties.
Yes.
It's interesting, so also to understand how each person can negotiate on a daily basis, because each one of us has a family, has a partner, has kids or friends, and it's so interesting to see how negotiating is not just about a certain niche of a business, but is also something that belongs to the human being, right?
Yes.
Being humans means also negotiating with others on a daily basis. So thanks a lot for sharing those insights with us. Let's move forward, because I have another question for you, Chiara. Now, let's deep dive a little bit in the business, in the work that we do. We have seen a transformation in the pharma industry that started during the pandemic, and of course, it's not over. What are the things, in your opinion, that changed in our industry, and the things that instead are now over?
Okay, thank you very much as well. This is an interesting question. And as well, the pandemic was an interesting, very peculiar period of our lives, I would say. And in our industry, the pharma industry, the CRO, so the clinical research organization, we saw a lot of the changes very much linked to the pandemic. First of all, we saw a massive increase of volumes. Every company strive to have a blockbuster, a vaccine, a drug to fight and to solve and cure COVID. So what we saw was a very massive increase of the work on our plates, but as well we saw a big, massive inflation and a lot of failures. A lot of trials didn't really get to even start because of failures in proof of concepts, in adverse events and these things. It was a big push on that side. With increased volumes, we immediately realized that we needed more resources in general, pharma companies, hospitals, CROs as well. But at the same time, we needed to be quick because it was an emergency, a global emergency, and maintaining high quality because we have human lives in our hands when we think about drugs. So what we saw in order to maintain the speed was a big request for resources. hospitals were short-staffed, but we also needed to be quick and agile in the processes. So we saw approvals and ethics evaluations being very quick, and even contract negotiation, which is more our field, was expedited, and it had peculiar channels for review and execution. What we're seeing now is that speed is not there anymore. There is not that urgency anymore. It's more back to normal steady states, but we do see some benefits. Some of the things and then the processes that were improved continue to remain improved, and we can really have reduced timelines for startup of clinical trials. Having the quick speed and the need of maintaining high quality pushed a lot to more collaborations internally within the teams, a lot about all the functions in startup being close one to another to ensure smooth transition in the various phases. And it really it has always been, but it remains more than ever a key point in the efficient startup of clinical trials.
Yeah.
What we're seeing as well is that started with a pandemic, and then it's continuing some initiatives to expedite clinical trials. We have the EMEA initiative for the accelerated clinical trials. We see push to harmonize processes like the EU CTR that started before, but it had a big push, and we are now looking at having a harmonized process across the the countries. We also, that's a big thing. We also saw a boost in the decentralized or hybrid clinical trials. What is our? I mean, looking at various options, instead of having patients necessarily going to the sites, having tools, technologies, people, different processes, having a nurse going to patients' houses was really a big boost over the past few years. Now it's more stable in terms of the focus of the organizations in these points, but what we are trying to look at is how to harmonize and have perhaps a platform where and one system where all these decentralized aspects can fill into. What we're seeing as well is a lot of focus on sites and their evolution in networks, in having more collaborations and having bigger patient populations. That's another thing that we saw starting during the pandemic, but it's a still very current reality. We saw changes in the technology as well for the processes. The first time I heard about electronic signature was probably 2015, and there was pretty quiet, slow adoption until COVID. And this gave a lot of push that benefited how expedited we can get a contract signed, small things that we see, right? But as well, I would say that the key point was really the push for effectiveness, and the collaboration is really playing a role with maintaining and streamlining processes internally in the organization. The last point I'd like to mention in relation to the changes we saw during the pandemic is in relation to the budgets and the needs and the cost of doing clinical trials. The study designs may get complex. There are political situations that are impacting on the ability of doing clinical trials, but as well on the inflation. So we need to take care and take into account of all these aspects when we do the contracts, do the clinical trials. The point as well that is really coming up is new markets. Like, I've seen a big push towards different countries than the usual top countries we always saw in clinical trials, and looking at different regions to avoid saturation, and an eye on sustainability, environmental sustainability. This is the things that I've seen.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for all these insights. And we can say that the pandemic has driven a little bit the transformation and a change that you touched very well with all these topics. If we focus on site contracting itself, because we know that site contracting is part of the startup phase, right, that we do in order to activate a study in a specific site. From your perspective, we know that from our experience, and I'm sure that you would agree with me, we needed to teach some time, right, to our colleagues that contracting and the contracts, the CTA that we do, is not always the last setting stone
Yes.
that we need to do in order to activate a site. And sometimes the site contracting part is kept as last, with the last thing that is happening before activating a site. Due to the fact that we have seen a change in the effectiveness, in the efficiency, and we are all focused on improving the speed that we need to have when activating a site. Do you see that maybe this perception of site contracting by our colleagues that are working with us is changed, and now site contracting can be even seen as a part that is not coming last, but something that is coming in parallel of the startup phase? Or do you see that the things are still as they were before the pandemic? I would like to have your insight on that.
Thank you. It's an interesting question. Since I started working in site contracts, and it's been a few years, quite a few years, the site contracts are the black sheep, and the one coming last, the rate limiting factor, the delaying factor at times. And in all my career, I've tried to fight this perception. I think that with the pandemic and the fact that we had expedited channels to get the contracts and the budget negotiated, the perception has changed a bit, but it's not where personally I would like to see it. I truly believe that if we have good collaboration with the various colleagues in the startup, if we have good timing and planning up front, like we don't waste times between when site is selected and when we start the contract negotiation, if we set the expectations right with the clients on what is feasible and what is not based on the country nuances, if we plan carefully all the timelines of the study and the setup and the scheduling of the SIV, then everything can be expedited and the contract negotiation can go smoothly. And not come in last. Of course, there are certain interdependencies, because we know that at times we need the ethical approvals, the area approval, and we cannot sign right away. So it may be that it will always come late as the last piece because of all these interdependencies. The point and the focus will need to be how to ensure that it comes, even if last, on time, and having a proper negotiation, like using negotiation techniques, using intelligence as we, the companies and the people as well grow their intelligence, their knowledge about that. I'm sure that good contract excellence can be built.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this is about the perception that others have about site contracting. And during my daily work, I wanted to stand for the site contracting interest as well, because sometimes there is this misconception about site contracting. But as you mentioned, I really feel that we as a team need to collaborate in order to make sure that the site contracting can be seen as a process, as something that can be managed in parallel, and of course something that is important as the startup part, as the regulatory or the ethic one, in order to make sure that the site can be activated on time. I see startup and site contracting as two faces of the same coin, and we needed to use this coin as best as we can in order to ensure that we have a site activation readiness built up in order and be efficient, right, under this point.
Yeah, I do truly believe that the startup, when I say startup, I always consider site contracts in it. So it's really not even two faces of the same coin. It's really one nuanced diamond where you have all the different pieces together, and how you collaborate, communicate, work as a team will make the difference.
Yeah, for sure will make the difference. And this is it comes down to people, right? So
Yes.
it's about us, and it's about the collaborations that we can have internally between our teams. So thanks a lot for this insight. Now we are in 2024. And I'm sure that the new trends and new perspective are brought in the industry from the previous year, right? Where we were a little bit getting together to understand which were the new trends for this new year, for 2024. Now we are more customer focused. We are also more site focused, and in each side and in each part, we can see a contract part related to everything that we do. What do you think are the new trends that we will see this year in 2024? And if we saw something changed with the perceptions and with the perspectives that we had the last year?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's an interesting question. We are kind of mid of 2024, January 2024, so 15 days in the year, and I've been following the different trends across the industry for a while, and I think that overall for clinical trials and as a reflection in contrast, we will see different perspective, different changes that will come into force more and more, and perhaps they will start this year and continue over. The changes are never super quick unless there is something urgent coming up that forces the speed. I would say that we need to look at the different perspectives. We will see, if we look at sponsor like pharma, biotech companies, medtech, we see more complex studies coming up, more complex designs and platform studies. So focus a lot on biomarkers and very articulated way trials. This will imply more complex negotiation for budget and contract specifically, and especially budget. We're finding ways to expedite and leverage knowledge or leverage tools to expedite that negotiation. Well, creating the budgets right and accurate and aligned with the market will be the first point, but even doing a quick negotiation will be a big point that I'm expecting in 2024. Some automation as well. Mm-hmm. If we look at the site perspective, I keep hearing that sites and reading about sites being still short-staffed. So looking at a way to reduce the burden on the sites will be a big focus in 2024. This will mean having a standard template, so to reduce at least legal negotiation or leverage the knowledge where if we do recurrent negotiation with the sites, we can repeat the legal language or repeat. We know that sites have their internal tariff. What about leveraging that knowledge instead of starting the budget negotiation from scratch? Yeah. What we will see as well is a lot of push on the site networks. I mentioned that before, but a lot of sites are merging and creating these networks, whether like merging formally as legal entity or forming partnership where they can leverage like one point of negotiation and budget and then a distribution of the budgets. This type of things I think will be very much pushed in 2024. Yeah. I see a lot of patient centricity as well. There is a lot of talks about inclusion and diversity, the reach out of populations that may be underserved. They may have difficulties in access treatments or may have difficulties in reaching a site, and having options where patients may decide as well whether to go to the site or do the visits at home. That will be a big focus, and this will have a consequence on how we negotiate the budgets, because there need to be a consideration of the different options that we may offer.
Yeah.
And then there is a lot about how we leverage the available data. That we have a lot of data available, I would say, in the internet, in the systems, and how this could be leveraged to benefit site sponsor contracts and different things. With implication of that is still a hot topic since 2018, which is the data protection.
Yeah.
I would say as well that CROs have a role in this, and how I see big CROs, especially facing starting 2024, is pretty diversified. We see some CROs focusing on partnership with sites and creating more networks, even acquiring sites that, and this again will reflect and will need to be reflected in contract and budget. But as well, other organizations are focusing on the still having technology implemented, like looking at platform for DCTs, the decentralized clinical trials,
Yeah.
or platform for even expediting the process. I read where of a CRO who was looking at having a platform where site, CRO, and sponsor can communicate without inundating with emails, for instance. I see as well a big push for new technology and how to leverage artificial intelligence. We are not quite there yet, so perhaps it's not something that will be concrete in 2024, but will drag in the next years as well.
Yeah.
From a contrast perspective, purely speaking, I'd really love to see finally and get into more visibility for the contract excellence, contract and budget, where we will be looking at having new tools like technology again, but as well having new tools like leveraging more the data. A lot of CROs and sponsors have worked with the majority of the sites, especially in the key countries. So finding the ways and structuring a way where we could have quick contract negotiation leveraging the data, how sites prefer to be contacted, how what fees they request, what language we can leverage. And as well, having this confidence and partnership with the clients, CROs and clients. Certain clients or sponsors, pharma companies may not be fully knowledgeable of all the changes or in the regulatory aspects, or how different still the contracting space can be based on the country you go to. So having this kind of knowledge sharing where we could be, if you start more knowledgeable at the beginning and getting the confidence of clients, then you can negotiate faster, be more efficient, be more on time on, and then activate sites more quickly.
Yeah.
A lot about communication, I would say.
Yeah. And also finding the right stakeholders at site, right? Because sometimes
Yes.
I see that we contact not the right person at the right time in the right place, and this can contribute, to have a delay in our communication channel and in our communication flow. But at the same time, we can, mix things up. And if we are not able to focus with the right stakeholders on the things that matter, we can, lose a little bit of time, and also we can lose the thread of the communication that we trigger with the site. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting, and it's I just wanted to add, because you mentioned the crucial importance of the site. Having the right people, but at the same time approaching them with something that is agile to negotiate. If you have like a 50 pages contract, then it will take ages for them to review it. So it will be key. And having as well, I think sites as well have asked for, when I said the reduced burden, it means a lot as well, having less point of contacts. So I would expect as well some reorganizations that would take more into account the site centricity.
Yeah.
What I would say is that, we face changes all the time. This industry is very dynamic. And the most important thing is that whenever we have changes, we do that in a structured way with a robust change management approach. This is because if we kind of throw changes and we have a lot in a short period of time, then we create more confusion if we don't manage and bring everybody together in a journey of change. And it tells a lot about collaboration, coordination, and communication.
Yeah, of course, in order to embrace this change, right? All together in a consistent way. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now, Chiara, thanks a lot. I'm so excited to see how this communication is moving forward. And I have one last question about you, Chiara, now that we are in 2024. What is this year bringing to you? Do you have some projects or plans that you'd like to share with the audience?
Thank you. It's an interesting question indeed. A person that I work with and I do take into high consideration really taught me how to see new opportunities everywhere. And with this in mind, I look at 2024 as new opportunities as every year. And I'm really, I go back to my why and understand what a new opportunity could be for me. I really think and believe that working in clinical trials in the new drugs in this industry can bring progress in the humanity. And the way I can do it and contribute is to look at the contrast phase and the startup phase and see how we can make processes more efficient, look at how we can share knowledge. We are a big community working in this industry, and how we can provide trainings, sharing knowledge, and contribute to overall improvement and more efficient ways of working.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the power, of the network and the knowledge sharing, whatever we can do, really can have an impact in the industry and on the humanity, as you said, because whatever we can do affects and also has an impact on the bigger picture, on something that is bigger than us. So I totally agree with you, and I would like to share the added value to have this vision, right? In order to see ourselves as something, as someone that, as people that are part of something that is bigger, because it enables us to see the big picture, and also to find the drivers that keep us doing what we do on a daily basis.
Agreed. I can't agree more.
So thanks a lot, Chiara. It has been an enhancing conversation. I'm really happy to have you as a guest in the MACE podcast. I'm sure that the audience will treasure the episode as I will. And I cannot wait to see you again and to speak to you again, and wishing you all the best for this new year, Chiara. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity and this conversation. So I'm really looking forward to collaborate with you again and speak again. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.